Over the years, I've watched Sex and the City, and I love the four characters. They have such different personalities, but
Yes,
they all
they do.
obviously have a great idea for fashion. So if Charlotte, Carrie, Miranda, and Samantha were to walk into a Nordstrom's right here in Tyson's Corner,
Yes.
and they saw the display of SJP collection, what is the one item that each of them would pick up?
Most assuredly, Samantha would pick either the Gina boot or that Pat boot right there,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
Carrie would probably pick the Carrie in purple. Charlotte would pick the Pola in black, and Miranda would pick the lady in the olive or the purple.
That is. Did you know that before I asked you that question? You just picked that up?
No one has ever asked me that.
That is awesome.
But there's a fawn and teal that we don't have here, which is pretty fantastic too. I did my best.
Take me back to '98 when that show started, and the fashion at that point and the fashion nowadays. What is the biggest difference in similarity you see in fashion then and now?
I think the difference is it's just kind of, if this makes sense to you, I think it will. It's simply grown. You know, at that time, fashion culturally didn't play as big a role. There weren't as many fashion awards, and people weren't using fashion to tell stories in the way that we were. People weren't integrating fashion into their lives as performers and artists and entertainers, and celebrities didn't have relationships with fashion the way that they do now. So I think it's just culturally become a bigger piece of the cultural pie.
Right.
Is the thing that seems most clear to me different.
Right, right. Now, had you made this collection at that point in your career, would you have done things completely differently as the answer you just gave?
I think I would probably be very much, it would be pretty consistently the same, because the things that were most influential to me when I first arrived in New York City as a young girl, it turns out were the same. George Malcolmus III and I arrived in New York the same year, and the designers of influence, those people that left vivid memories in my brain, were Sonia Rykiel, Charles Jourdan, and Venice Edwards, and Stuart. I can't remember his last name at the moment, but those were the shoes that I loved and longed for and saved my pennies for, and that's sort of what we wanted to recreate in this price point, was that single sole, maude frisson, color is a neutral, beautiful, made in Italy, well made, last a lifetime shoes. So that is what I've always loved.
Now, I'm kind of a nerd about how things are made, especially in movies, but when it comes to a shoe, where is that balance? Because obviously, how involved are you in the production of the shoe in the sense of...
Involved in everything.
Right, but like in the sense of how do you know that shoe is going to be balanced? How do you know that the shoe...
First of all, these shoes are made in Italy by a third-generation shoemaker. So at this point, he's pretty familiar with the last and balance and scale and pitch and how a shoe feels when you put it on. And if we change the heel and we make a stacked heel, how is that going to make you feel in a pointy toe or an almond toe shoe with a 70 millimeter versus an 85 millimeter versus a 100 millimeter. You learn these things. I mean, I learned it just from wearing shoes, right. Thousands of pairs of shoes for the last 10 or 15 years. But when you have a great shoemaker in Italy, this is his life's work. He is doing this, his son's doing it, his father did it. So he just understands that balance.
Right. Now, after playing a character like Carrie for so many years, and you leave her, how much do you miss her? Do you ever wake up in the morning in her mindset ever, since you played her for so many years?
I never wake up in her mindset, because those weren't my words. It's not that I miss her. I think that experience was so special and so unique, and the people that I was working with were so special to me. You can miss that experience, but I always felt that we left Carrie. I felt good about when I last saw her. She seemed well. So until I see her again, which may or may never happen, I feel okay. I think I miss the people and that experience, yeah. But she's not gone, you know. Right.
Now, I have to ask you, because I'm a big nerd about your movies. I love Hocus Pocus. My girlfriend loves Hocus Pocus. What is it about that movie that has become such a phenomenon?
It's so interesting to me. Only since having joined Twitter fairly recently do I understand people's affection and devotion to Hocus Pocus, and I can't really explain it except perhaps it came out at a certain time and this generation of people were a certain age and that moment and those memories that they connect with that time. Maybe it's because it was sort of silly and odd and perverse and weird, and we wanted to eat small children, didn't we? I mean, didn't we want the life and the air and the breath that the very breath they breathed? Yeah. Didn't we try to like suck it into our own bodies? I mean, that's freaking weird.
It is weird, but it's awesome.
Good. I'm glad you like it.
Now, last question, when you put on a perfect pair of shoes, talk about that what goes through your mind. Like, how do you get geeked out about your fashion?
I really love a well-made pair of shoes. I love a beautiful, well-made pair of shoes. I don't care if it's, 30 years old, 40 years old, 2 weeks old. I don't care if it's, sweaty and dirty inside. I will put it on. But it's not as fevered a relationship as Carrie Bradshaw's. I just think they can be extraordinary and works of art and beautifully engineered and fabrications I never would have thought of. And so I love the experience of them. But I think of them as like, library books. Like often it's the kind of, I have this temporary custody and the honor of wearing them for a day and then I give them back, and I had that experience and it's a memory now.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Tell your girlfriend I said hi.
I will. Her name is Lauren. Do you mind saying?
Hey, Lauren.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Do you mind